I'm going to set up a baby ball python setup, but I'm going to do a big deluxe kind of a setup. The kind of setup that you would do if you had something you wanted to display. Like say you've got a really pretty morph or you've got something that you really want to make look nice, you're going to want to set it up in something a little bit more elaborate than a tub. This is not necessarily great for hatchlings. You're going to want to get hatchlings started in something a bit more simple. Once you've got it established and feeding for you, there's no reason not to set it up in a prettier cage than just a plastic bin with paper towel. I personally prefer using cypress mulch for ball pythons just because it holds a little bit more moisture. Probably use a little bit here. There we go. Nice layer here. So if you'll notice, I put in about an inch worth of bedding. This makes it easy for you to spot clean the poop and basically maintain cleanliness. You can always add more if you want, which I probably will later. The second part of this is going to be picking a side to put the water bowl on versus the heat. So I'm going to use this kind of a bowl, which is a nice little corner-shaped bowl. It's nice and big too, which means one, it's going to have a lot of surface area for evaporation, and two, it's going to be big enough for the snake to get into and soak as it gets larger and larger. Right now, the baby I'm going to put in here is still relatively small, so this is more than enough. If you're worried about it drowning or for being too deep, all you got to do is just not fill it up as full. It's an easy solution there. And then I really like using cord flats as hiding spots. And it's, again, this is meant to be a display, so I'm going to do something cool like this skull hidey spot. And that's going to go, put that right there. Then we'll do some cork. Now the reason I like cork compared to some other kinds of hiding spots is that because it's relatively flat, that means there's going to be a nice little bubble of air that's perfect for the snake to hide under. That'll help the baby ball python feel a lot more secure and a lot safer. And then another thing too, when you're building this up, you can keep in mind what you have on hand. This cord flat, for example, is a little bit more triangular than the other ones. So I'm going to put it over here on the cold side, matching up with the bowl, and have it kind of fit in nice and snug to create your cold side hide. Let's get that guy going like that. And then you see here, there's a nice little hiding spot there. There's another one here. Maybe it can even wedge right there. And then, again, just because this is meant to be a display, you could try a bunch of different stuff. I'm lucky because I'm here in the store, so I get to go through all of our decor and just go, well, that looks cool, and I'm going to try putting it in. Maybe it doesn't look so good, so I'm not necessarily going to use it all. And this I don't think is, well, maybe. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's just keep putting stuff in and see what it looks like. That is honestly one of the best tricks of the trade for creating a pretty cage. Just keep trying different stuff until you find something that works. So here's a nice little plant. Yeah, that's not going. I'm going to put this right here. Kind of have it like that. And then, let's see. That'll be a bit of color. We can even just have this like that there. Or we can untwist it. Okay, so a vine like this is one of our 72-inch vines. I love these because they're only $3.99 and you can use them for anything. And which is nice. It's a whole lot of foliage and you don't have to spend a lot on it. Which, if you're like me and you like making pretty cages but you don't want to drop a couple hundred on every single one, this makes it easy. So one thing that I like to do is I'll tuck it in along the back. And then because then you can kind of see how it bunches, and then you can tuck it in around. Now one reason you might want to have foliage for something like a ball python, which a ball python isn't really a tropical, well, not a truly tropical animal in that it perches in the vines and stuff in the wild. It does, however, provide visual barriers and a lot of visual cover for your snake to hide under. And when you're setting up a relatively small baby, a well-started baby, but still a baby in a relatively large cage, this cage, for example, is 30 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. That's kind of big for starting a baby ball python. But one way you make it work is you give them lots of places to hide. Notice there's a hide right here on the cold side. We've got our skull, and then we've got a few different places over here on the warm side of varying different temperature ranges. This is going to be the hottest. Over here is probably going to be the second hottest. And over here the third. And then even on top of that, we can have our little foliage here. We might have too much even, to bunch up and create even more places to hide on top of the wood. So that's one thing you can do. Or say you don't like it, which I don't think I do. You can just take it all back out, be like me and throw it on the floor. That's fine, that's cool, no worries. We can put this little thing back over here. Then the other thing that I really like to do for ball pythons is I put moss in the corners. Moss is the best tool you have for creating humidity without necessarily keeping the bedding so wet that you create scale problems. We have a bunch of the Zoo Med New Zealand sphagnum moss already made up here. We keep it in buckets because you can go through so much of it here at the store. So here's a few handfuls. And the nice thing about the moss is just you don't have to be careful about the way you place it. You can just kind of throw it around. It almost looks better that way. Line it around the bowl here. And if you line the moss along the bowl, you can even make the bowl look more like a little pool of water within the cage, instead of just another piece of cage furniture that's really blatantly obvious and sticking out. And then again, have that hidden there. The only drawback to creating a cage like this is that the snake may not always find all the hiding spots right away. So make sure when you're setting it up that you're keeping a nice little place hollowed out for them to get into. This one I've dug out a little bit of the bedding. You can kind of see right here, there's a little crevice for them to get into. And the same on this side, you can see it's a little bit piled under. And then this one they usually find pretty easy just because as they cruise around they'll just go right up underneath. And then of course the eyes and the skull will make it super easy. And then pack a little bit along here, a little bit there, a little bit there. There, nice and lush. And then another finishing touch you can do is add pebbles. Pebbles, the snake's not going to eat them. It's not really going to do a whole lot except make it look prettier, which again, this is your goal. This is a nice display tank. Don't cover the whole thing in rocks, but they can make a nice accent. Think of it, you're decorating a home and these are the little final touches that you can toss in. There we go. So that's pretty much it. That is your deluxe baby ball python setup. We're gonna put this little guy in here. This is a pretty little guy that we have in stock here. Let him get settled. He's a little surprised. He's like, oh, it's so big and so pretty. The only things that are not shown in this video is I didn't put on a heat pad and I didn't put in a thermometer. The heat pad is just going to go on this side the way that I designed it. I would say for a cage like this, a 10 to 20 gallon heat pad, because this is technically a 20 gallon cage, a 10 to 20 gallon sized heat pad should be just fine. In addition, I usually recommend a digital thermometer with a little probe. And since those you can move around, you can stick one in this hiding spot, that hiding spot, that hiding spot. It doesn't really matter where in the cage you put it, so it's not something that's going to be a permanent fixture here in the cage. So there's no reason for me to show me taking it out of the package and putting it in. See, he's already found his little skull hiding spot. These skulls are super neat. But yeah, so you do want to make sure you have a source of heat. Is there anything else? If you really want to as well, you can also put on a low wattage basking light. That'll help illuminate the cage and again, make it look nicer. A 2.0 UVB bulb also helps to display the cage really well and also looks really nice. It does make the snake look really good. And again, if you have a pretty snake that you're trying to display, you might as well light it up and make it look nice.